It was just one evening recently that Joe Rader and I were sitting talking, and he got into some interesting conversation. And I said, well, what, Joe, how about we set our cameras up and record this? So I think he has this up on his YouTube channel, which is Dirty Motorcycle Vagabond on YouTube, right? I'll leave a link. But anyways, he began to tell the story of freedom and it's a lot of interesting things. And for those who don't know, I met Joe. He lived in Blacksburg, Virginia, which is a small town. And I stayed there for a month, and we became friends. And he had an apartment, and he was working in an upholstery shop, and whatever. But he had these dreams of things he wanted to do. This travel, especially, he wanted to go around the world. He wanted to learn other languages. He had these big dreams. And he's gone on to do that. For the last 4, maybe 5 years, he's been on the road on his motorcycle, but he also takes time to go and travel to different countries, and he comes back and tells me all these stories, some of the places he really likes and really didn't. And we're going to talk a bit about how that happened and how he got there, and he lets me talk a lot because maybe I'm like a father figure or something to him, but he does his share of talking here. And with that, you guys, let me just run the video, and you can listen in on the conversation. Joe was just talking to me about some of the freedoms and somehow he's gotten to do some things that he always wanted to do before but never had the time to do. And so I had the same experience. It's easy for people to assume that I got out of the rat race by hitting the road on my bike, but that's not what happened. What happened was I had a 3-bedroom house, 2 cars, truck, old stuff, not new, but still I had it for a while. And I didn't like it because of all the pressure and the stress, and because I worked all week, and then on the weekends I did the work around the house I couldn't do during the week because I was busy working. And I get sick of that shit. And so I moved into my little trailer. Now, my buddy had a piece of property, and he let me put a trailer. He had one, but then I got a better one. And it's a whole story. I ended up with a little trailer on the front of mine's property. He charged me $150 a month for rent, and I got rid of everything that I didn't actually use. And I got rid of my GMC truck, and I bought a little Toyota mini truck. Everybody used to drive those back then. Yeah. And I paid $1,600 in change for it. And I fixed a couple things on it. I had a broken window, heater, and didn't work, whatever. And all of a sudden, life got real easy. I was making too much money. And so I began to cut the workload back. I'd work 2 to 3 weeks. I've told this story before. And then I would take 2 months off. And I got bored, and I started trying a lot of things. And then I hit on the bike travel. And then I started going further and further. And then I started hating coming back. To make the whole story short. And ultimately, I ended up like this. Yep. But, so, hitting the road, that's not how I got out of the so-called rat race. Hitting the road didn't get me out of the rat race. Hitting the road was a byproduct, a perk of first getting out of the rat race because I didn't have any time to pursue the things that I liked or cared about, right? I didn't even know what my passions were. Yep. Once I had all this time, I had to start doing things, and then I started finding out what I really loved. You know something I tell people, you know what the definition of following your heart is, Joe?
What's that?
It's as simple as this, I think, is you take real notice of the things that you really like doing, the things you love doing in life, whether it's fishing, whatever it is. You take notice of that and make it important. Don't forget about it when you get back. Remember it. I wrote it down once. Remember that out here is where your spirit's alive. I remember writing a letter to myself for when I got back. And you take notice of that and try to make more time for that, and take notice of the things that you don't like doing in life, because we all have that. And then try to minimize that. So he was just talking about he's had the same experience. Things that you're getting to do now that you didn't, the language thing, because he's just sitting here practicing learning what language?
Yeah, Bisaya, which is kind of a Filipino language. There's like 186 different dialects, and I chose one of the more obscure dialects to start learning, but it's because I really like that part of the Philippines. But it's like, back when I was working a 9-to-5 job, I mean, I would wake up early, get ready for work, start my bike, let the bike warm up, go through my routine, get called to do overtime pretty frequently, and by the time I got home, showered, and ate dinner, I mean, I was pretty much ready. I had like an hour of free time, and went to bed. And literally, it was like a hamster caught in the wheel, where I was going through the same motions day after day after day. And for me personally, not saying it would be the same for everybody, but it started to slowly destroy my soul. Because I wasn't following any of the passions I was really into, except for riding motorcycles. I always made time for riding motorcycles. But ever since I was a kid, I wanted to learn another language and just never got around to it.
But you always wanted to travel the world too, since I've met you.
Travel the world,
but you never got to.
Absolutely. And this crazy being on the road, living on a motorcycle, camping in the woods, being a homeless person.
Home free, brother.
Home free. As a homeless,
friend of mine used to say,
as essentially a homeless or home free person, I've gotten to travel like 10 different countries now. I speak pretty good Spanish. But it's the process of being able to do those things that just really, for me, gives me a lot of fulfillment in life. Being able to read a lot of books and things like that. Oh, I always wanted to read this. There were so many times I'm like, one of these days. And I kept putting it on the back burner. One of these days I'm going to do this. One of these days I'm going to travel to Asia. You know what I mean? And just as a result of doing this and cutting my living expenses down to an absolute minimum, simplifying my life. I have no rent. I have no bills. I've got a bag of clothes, a couple of sleeping bags, tent, cooking stuff, and I'm happy, And as a result of doing that, it's simplified my life where I have more free time, and I'm able to, figure out what it is that I'm passionate about, and then do that as much as possible. So.
Well, you did kind of get out by hitting the road. It wasn't that way for me.
Yeah.
Right, but you had my example.
Yeah.
In your face.
Absolutely.
So you could see that it could be done. And you were also one of the most naturals at it. Most guys won't start camping in the woods without paying. People believe that they have to pay to sleep. They got to pay to sleep. They realize that you can sleep on the land that you were born to without having to pay another man for that privilege. But
right.
You start doing that right away. You started doing all this. You moved right into this quicker than most of the guys I've seen. Started finding things to do while you're on the road because you can get bored, right?
Yeah.
And so it was first getting out of the rat race that allowed me to find my passion and then follow it. I couldn't do it same as you while I was in the rat race.
Absolutely. What are some things that you've gotten to do since you got out of the rat race, other than just riding a motorcycle?
Dude, when I was younger, my stories were a lot more interesting. I was chasing all the women. One of the editors over there at Easy Rider, he was a young guy, and he was chasing all the pussy too. And he told me that I should call my little column there Scotty's Tales, Tails.
I like it.
But I was into the parties and chasing the women. And anytime things got weird, my magazine articles looked like they're written by a different person than me.
Yeah.
So I got to do all these things. My last bike, which I had for 19 years, was on more ships than I could remember. When you're out on a big ship, you're sleeping on the deck, you can feel the engine. You can always feel the engine coming through the deck when you're sleeping on the deck, man. And I have boxes. A lot of them got ruined in a flood in Arkansas, but I have boxes because we had film back then. I've got 3 boxes of developed film, but I only developed the stuff really that I made magazine stories out of, because but I also have 3 shoe boxes of undeveloped film. And when I go looking through there, I can't believe so much has happened in such a short amount of time.
Yeah.
It was only like 20 years. I've mellowed out. Now I'm 64. So I'm mellowing out. Now I want to live easy, spend time at home, make these videos for people. It's more relaxed. I don't want to chase all the women anymore. It just comes with age.
Yeah. Yeah.
So those are some of the things we've gotten to do. You're writing a book right now.
You wrote a book.
I wrote a book, which was a bitch. It was very hard to do.
Yeah,
It took me a long time. You're hot on yours.
I'm seeing that. Well, 500 words a day.
But you're consistent. He's a lot more ambitious than me. I've never been able to take life that seriously because it doesn't last that long.
Yeah.
I'm like, you can build an empire, right?
Yeah.
You can build an empire, and you can spend all your time working to build this huge empire, and then one day you're going to die, and then before long, everybody that knew you is going to die, and you're going to be as forgotten as my great-great-great-granddaddy, who, hell, I don't know who he is or what he did. When somebody was just talking about Jay Allen, who owned the Broken Spoke. You ran into him recently. I was talking to me about him the other day. Nobody remembers Jay Allen. You don't know who he is. I do. He's the guy who got the Broken Spoke in Sturgis. He put it together. He had all these bikes, and he took that show on the road with semi-trucks. It was like a traveling circus. And then all that ended, and now nobody... Who remembers Michael Jackson, for Christ's sake? He was super famous.
Yeah.
So I've never been able to take life that seriously. I always say you can hurry to the grave, or you can stroll to the grave. Either the way, it takes the right amount of time. But the bottom line was getting our lives simplified and making them easier and getting all our excess gone. It's given us the ability to either do more or do less, depending on what you want to do, right? I want to do less. You're more ambitious than me. You're like constantly doing things, learning languages, writing books, making videos constantly.
Yeah.
I want to live a more relaxed life. Wake up easy, have some coffee, go for a ride.
I think I'm a little more ADHD.
Yeah, whatever it is.
I wake up and I hit the ground running. I'm ready to do stuff.
Right, and I'm not. I'm lazy.
Yeah.
Vita's like that too.
Right.
She likes to be doing stuff all the time.
Yeah.
But so it gives you the freedom to either do more or less depending on on the call of what it is you want to do.
Yeah.
And there's no right or wrong either way, because you ain't here very long. You're here for a minute and then you're forgotten. You're forgotten.
Yeah.
You ain't gonna make a mark that lasts. Doesn't matter what the fuck you do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
My battery's about to go dead. Let me ask you this. So what advice would you give to somebody that is working a 9-to-5 job? Let's say they got like 3 kids, a wife, and they have a desire, they've seen your stuff, and they want to simplify their life. They want to be able to follow some of these things, these passions and things like that. What advice would you give them?
I don't have any real advice. I can tell you some of the things I know. My mother raised me and my little brother, and at one point we lived in a trailer that was actually on a commune, but the communes were really, you could live there for cheap, is what it was.
Like a hippie commune?
Yeah, I grew up, when I was little, I lived on these.
That explains a lot.
Well, it's in, the first video that I have is like the one video that goes up front kind of thing. I forget how that works on the YouTube thing.
Yeah.
That's my own story. It talks about that a little bit. But on this particular one, it's mostly a big piece of land with a big house that everybody lives in. It's real cheap.
Yeah.
It's what it was.
Gotcha.
It'd be like $20 a month or something at that time. So my mom had a trailer way out on the edge of the property, and it was too small for me. I couldn't sleep in that little shelf they had for a bed back there. So I had a tent. Well, what does the boy need? I was pretty happy. She told me she moved there so that we could have, her boys could have men around, because there was men, right?
Yeah.
That's what she tells me now, right? That's why she did. I didn't know that at the time. But there was guys there, and there was, some motorcycles there, and I had a mini bike, and I don't have bad memories of that. One year at a hot spring, I met a couple, really interesting couple, been married for a long time, and she was really beautiful. They'd been married their whole lives, and he told me the story. He had worked the last 5 years to make money, and they were going to Chile to retire. The money went further down there. They were getting older now, and they wanted to retire.
Yep.
But he told me the story of when they had walked the Pacific Crest Trail for a year and a half with his wife and 4 kids, and when they got to the other side, they had 5 kids. She got pregnant along that trail. Now that blew my mind. I was like, really? And I asked him. I said, what was that like? I think they had a donkey or something to carry their shit. He said, I wanted to do something. He said, with my family as a family. Before everybody grew up and went their separate ways like they have now. He told me, he said, at that time, we were the closest as a family that we've ever been. I was like, really? He said, yeah. He said, we'd come out of the mountains, and we'd go to a car lot, and I'd tell the guy, I'll wash all your cars for $1 a piece. And then he said, I'd be out there with my whole family washing these cars, squirting each other with the hose. We'd go shopping, load up the mule, go back up into the mountains. So I wouldn't want to do this. You probably wouldn't either. But my point being is that people live all different kinds. There's all different kinds of ways. I've known guys who lived on boats. When I used to live in San Diego, most of the people that I knew were doing the normal thing, working 9 to 5s day in and day out. It wasn't until I began to hit the road that I began to meet people that were doing completely different things that I couldn't even imagine were possible.
Yep.
When I first started, I thought I was insane because I'm taking trips and I started to hate coming home. And then when I was home, all I wanted to do was leave again. So it didn't make sense to keep coming home. So I thought I was crazy. I didn't know anybody who'd done this. Then I met Panhead Billy, who'd been out here a bit longer than me, and he was completely at home with it. I met one other guy, and he didn't question his sanity. I was. You see what I'm saying? But because somebody else could do it. So we all got our people that inspire us.
Yeah.
I listened to Ozzy Osbourne talk about his once.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I figured my time is like a pie. And let's just say it's got 8 slices. Whereas work responsibilities, bills, payments, mowing the lawn occupied maybe 7 of those 8 slices, right? And as I began to cut those back, it opened up all these other slices for things like recreation, family, friends, a lot of other things, interests, different interests. It opened up that slice of pie because a man only has so many hours in a day.
Absolutely. That's fantastic. So, so what is it that you think keeps a lot of people in that hamster wheel kind of a cycle, working those 9 to 5s, not living sort of a miserable life?
If I had to take a stab at that, I would say fear.
Fear?
Fear of the unknown. I read somewhere that the unknown is the cause of all fear. And that's my experience. Every time I go to do something new, sometimes when I first started taking my trips, I was terrified that I did it anyway. I made myself do it anyway. I have a video up called Fear and Bicycles that talks about that. Tells the story of that. I won't bother getting into it now, but I would make a date. I'm just going to Arizona from California, and I'm going to leave here next week or whatever. And as the time got closer, this little monkey in my head would start talking. He'd say, maybe you shouldn't go. Maybe you don't have enough money. The weather might not be good. Your bike might break down. Here's one of his favorites. It isn't the responsible thing to do, right? He's talking to me in my own voice, like the responsible adult. And, right, like going out to enjoy my life ain't one of the most responsible fucking things I can do with it. And he would say, here's another one of his favorites. You're not going to have any fun anyway. Like he's already been there and done that.
Yeah.
And then he stopped me and slowed me down a couple times, and then that wasn't acceptable. I began to make a date, and I would say, okay, I'm leaving on this date.
Yeah.
And then he would start talking, and I'd say, look, man, shut up, but talk if you must. But it doesn't matter, because the decision is no longer yours or mine. I began to realize the demon I was dealing with. He's afraid of the unknown. He doesn't want me to do anything new. He wants me to stay what I'm doing, even if it's killing my ass.
Yeah.
And so I would say, yeah, talk if you must, but the date's been made. It ain't our decision anymore. Come this date, we're leaving. And I left sometimes freaking out.
Yeah.
A few hours out, I begin to relax. 3 days later, I'm like, why the hell don't I do this? And that's why. This is the real reason why you're going on your trip. 4 buddies are going to go with you, and they all back out at the end.
Absolutely.
That's who got them. That's who beat them, man. That much I'll attest to.
Yeah.
That's who beat them. And I had to feel the fear and do it anyway. There's no other way.
Yeah.
Because if the unknown is the cause of all fear, once I do something enough, it becomes the known. Like now hitting the road for you and me has no fear at all anymore because we do it all the time.
Don't think twice
So
about
it ain't nothing.
Yeah.
Pack up, hit the road. People are like, oh, I got to get my bike perfect.
So do you remember?
No, I don't. No, you don't.
Do you remember your first day when you've gotten rid of all your stuff, gotten rid of the apartment or wherever it was you were staying, and you hit the road? Do you remember that day?
That would be when I first got into my trailer. It would be probably different for you. I remember feeling like the weight of the world was lifted off my shoulders.
Yeah.
And I was like, and I had a couple lines from a Uriah Heep song running around my head.
Yeah.
And that song goes, this part of it goes, this is a thing I've never known before. It's called Easy Living. Now, what was your experience like?
My experience, I was totally freaked out. I'm like, all right, I packed all this shit on the back of my bike. Now I'm going to go down to Florida. I went down to Florida, met you, worked my first motorcycle
after the hurricane.
Yeah,
we lived in that abandoned electric motor rebuild shop in the back.
Yeah, down in Panama City Beach. Yeah. Got a taste for it and came back like a month or 2 later. We hung out in Nashville for a little while.
You got a good job working for Jeff.
I got a good job, and then I was like, man, I like this. I think I'm gonna get rid of all my stuff and hit the road full time.
You did it in a week. 1 week.
Yeah.
Don't you remember what happened? He liked you. He asked if you wanted to work Myrtle Beach. You took off.
Yeah.
I came up here to work on my bike. Hopefully, in the next few years, I won't have to do that so much because this bike maybe won't need work as much as often as that one.
Yeah.
But I came up here and you got a hold of me. You said, where you at? And I said, here, we're at Asheville, North Carolina. And you came here, and then you said, I'm going to go home and get rid of my stuff. And you were back in a week, and all your stuff was fucking. Oh, because I said, we were like, hey, you want to go to Sturgis?
Yes.
And we decided that we'd go to Sturgis together. You had that 300cc Ninja. I thought I was going to have to go slow slow down for that bike.
Yeah,
I didn't. I couldn't believe it. 300cc
No,
Ninja kept right up with us.
It could keep up, yeah.
And that's what happened that year. That was your first year, and then after Sturgis, you took off for Colorado or something. I forget.
But when I got rid of all my furniture, there was not a shred of doubt in my mind that this is what I was doing. I had no doubt, no second thoughts about, should I be doing this? Because once I had reached a certain point and put the wheels in motion, and that's what I tell a lot of guys, is if you want to do something, because I get a lot of comments like that, it's like, bro, I've always wanted to do whatever it is. Take a motorcycle trip, travel to Asia, do whatever. It's like, start right now. Don't put it off. I tell people, start right now. Put into motion the wheels that are going to make your dreams become a reality. But it's that initial leap. I think it's the fear thing. People are afraid to take that initial leap. And
Maybe.
It's like fucking Hunter S. Thompson said, buy the ticket, take the ride.
I may have had a little advantage because I already knew I didn't need a lot because of the things. That wasn't the only trailer. My mother would get a trailer and put on a friend's property. It's because you make a good roommate that way. It's cheap. You're not in the house, so you make a good roommate. So I already knew I didn't need all that. When I tried the big house, I didn't do it for that long. Sometimes I talk like I did, but I didn't. I stuck my toe in that water and I didn't like it.
Yeah.
But I knew I didn't need all that to live. I don't. What do you really need?
Yeah.
So we're camped in a bike shop. I got my new motorcycle. We're looking at the old one here. Things are going on in Jody's life right now, and he's just letting us stay inside of the shop. The property sold and blah, blah, blah. Joe's sleeping in the office, and I got my tent in the showroom over here, and he's getting ready to move this shop. Is that enough?
I think that's good.
I think that's good. That's a little freedom talk from, let's see. My channel is Scooter Tramp Scotty.
Yep.
Your channel?
Dirty Motorcycle Vagabond.
Yeah, those are our channels. So both of us do life on our bike stuff.
Be sure to like and subscribe.
Yeah, I forget. I never tell guys that. I forget that one. I'm like, whatever. I figure they already know.
Yeah. Otherwise, thanks for watching,
and we'll see you on the next video. On the road, on the next video, wherever.
That's my catchphrase.
Oh, it is, huh?
Yeah.
We'll see you on the road.
Yeah, we'll see you on the road.
We'll see you on the road.
See you on the road.
Or the next video.
Or the next video. Whichever comes first.
I'm going to leave you guys a few links, some of the usual ones that you're probably bored of. One to my book, which is done well. It's a spiritual book about the following of your heart, and there's a description of it written down there. And I'll leave you guys a few other links. I'm also on a couple of other channels. And what I want to tell you guys is in 1983, we had 40 companies that had news channels. Now we have 6 globalist billionaires who own all the mainstream media worldwide. And so it's a good idea to go and I always learn stuff when I take what's on the regular on their tainted media and I check it against these other ones. And Odyssey is the best one that I think. That's where I really find the dirt, find the good stuff. And Rumble has become tainted. They went on the market last year and BlackRock bought up the majority of their stock. So I have channels over there, but what I'm saying is it's just a good place to go and check. You want to see what happened with this recent shooting, go over there and look, compare that to what's on mainstream, that kind of thing. And you guys can like really figure shit out that way, because who can figure stuff out when they're just feeding us what they want? And anybody who gets into anything real, of course, gets canceled here like I did, right? Another thing that is so important is people send me information that they've found, and I look at everything everybody sends me. If I've seen the material before, maybe I don't watch it, because if I already know it, I don't want to rehash it. But I've learned so much this way, because people finding out information and then passing it to the other, to their countrymen, is one of the most important ways. That gives us feelers all over the place to learn about stuff. Now, I send links to people sometimes, stuff for people to watch, and almost nobody will watch it. that's going to be a major problem that we have. The First Amendment is freedom of the press, freedom of speech for a reason, because it's the most important one. And so that's a very, very important way to gain information on the things that are happening, real information, not the tainted bullshit that they're handing us. These fake channels give us some real stuff, but they mostly divert our attention and keep us from focusing on what's really fucking important that they really don't have. And I'm not going to get into that, of course, on this video. I have other channels for that kind of stuff. And with that, you guys, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you all on the next video, on the next one.